Gundam.tk presents Lead Gundam Defined. Hey, what's up everybody? It is Robert184 from Gundam.tk. And as anybody who's been watching reviews on my site knows, despite all the awesome kits that Bandai's put out, including all of the surprisingly good high-grade 00 kits, perfect grades, 1-year war, bad guy 2.0s, etc., I tend to only focus on one thing, and that is master grade or 1/100th lead Gundams. Now my goal from the time I bought my very first kit ever was to catch them all, and I'm almost there, but I think it's time that I give my definition of lead Gundam. And of course, this is just my definition, so feel free, of course, to let me know down below with the comments or with a video response what you think. And this list has been in my head for a long time, but I was pleased to see that when the game Gundam vs. Gundam, and then of course Gundam vs. Gundam Next came out, that they agreed with me. So this isn't set in stone, but here it goes. Now first, I think the thing you have to do is nail down which series count, and I'm only counting the main animated series, so mangas, games, etc. While they all had something valuable to the Gundam universe, they're not going to be considered. So even though I love it, sorry Crossbone Gundam, you're out. But that also means no Astray, Sentinel, etc. So for my purposes, there are 19 main series. Of course, in Universal Century we have First, Zeta, and then Double Zeta, and Victory. For AC, we're going to have God, Wing, X, Turn A, Seed, Seed Destiny, and 00. For OVAs, we have the 08th MS Team, War in the Pocket, Stardust Memoies, the soon-to-be-released Unicorn, and Gundam Wing, Endless Waltz. Not to mention for movies that we have Chars Counterattack, F91, and the upcoming 00 movie. Now, what are the lead Gundams of each series? I've got some general rules that I'll point out. So first of all, I'm not counting variants like the Super Gundam or the V2 Assault or the 00 Riser, etc. Next of all, we're not counting friend suits as well, so no Infinite Justice, no Hyakushiki, and forget about the 5-man bands such as God Gundam, Gundam Wing, and 00. Next up, the very simple rule is that there should be 2 per series in general. Ever since Zeta Gundam gave us the first mid-season upgrade, it's a Gundam tradition to have 2 per series, and that also guides my decisions. And finally, colors. The good guys should be white, not gray, and have some combination of red, blue, and yellow thrown in to varying degrees. From First Gundam, of course, we have Amro's RX-78-2, and though I like it a lot, there will be no G3 on this list. From the 08th MS Team, we have the RX-79 Ground Gundam, and you could argue with the EZ8 that it's just a rebuild of the ground, but it's markedly different enough that sticking with the 2 per series rule, that keeps it in. Plus Gundam vs. Gundam agrees that they are both leads. In War in the Pocket, there you can go into debates about the protagonist of this series, the Alex. It always shows up in older promotional art as a lead Gundam, and we can forget that it lost to Azaku. In Stardust Memoies, the GP01 clearly counts as the first lead, but I'm not going to count the GP01 FP as it's really just an upgrade instead of a rebuild, and in keeping with the 2 leads per series rule, because the second lead was clearly the GP03 Stamen, not going to count the Dendrobium, and the GP02, yeah, well, he's a bad guy, as they clearly made him Grays. Now in Zeta Gundam we have the Mark II as the first lead, and then we have the Zeta Gundam as the second, and I'm not counting the Super Gundam for the Mark II, and these are both great kits that I have built but don't have with me, sadly. The series Double Zeta was a little bit unique because the Zeta Gundam serves as the lead for the first half of the series, so only the Double Zeta gets added to my list, and not the full armor variant. From the movie Chars Counterattack we have the new Gundam, which is an incredibly awesome suit, but what about the ReGZ? Well, my color rule and Gundam vs. Gundam say no. Now that said, I still want to build it, and it makes my B list for sure. And High Nu, as awesome as it is, doesn't quite count either. The next OVA series from the Universal Century timeline brings Unicorn Gundam, which is well on its way to becoming a lead Gundam on the day that the anime comes out. F91 gets the nod from the movie F91, and Seabrook's follow-up suit, the X-1 Crossbone Gundam, as said earlier, does not make the list. Moving further into late Universal Century, of course, we have the Victory Gundam and the V2 Gundam, but we're not going to count their Dash counterparts, Buster, Assault, or the Buster Assault, or the Hexas, just 2 from that series, as awesome as they are. Moving out of Universal Century, from G Gundam we have the Shining Gundam as the first lead, and the God Gundam itself as the second. From Gundam Wing we have Wing Gundam and Wing Zero. Now this is probably going to be controversial, but as soon as the series adds a movie or an OVA, I think it's allowed a new lead Gundam. So in this case, Gundam Wing and the OVAs for Gundam Wing Endless Waltz, that adds the Wing Zero Custom, or the Endless Waltz version, as another lead Gundam. Now people can argue that it and Wing Zero are the same, but you can't retcon the original Wing Zero out of existence, and all of them deserve a place on the shelf. The series Gundam X brings us the Gundam X and the Double X, but I'm not going to count the X Divider just because it's a different shield and backpack, but otherwise it's the same as the original Gundam X. From the series Turn A Gundam, we have, well, that's it, the Turn A Gundam. It's one of the only series outside of the original to only have one lead throughout the entire series. From Gundam Seed we have the Strike, and I'm going to count the Aile Strike as the lead because it was in all of the openings and promo art, but not the launcher or sword variations. And I don't think there's any arguing about Freedom being the second lead. By the way, did anybody ever notice the similarities between Freedom and Double X? It's time for Seed Destiny, so let's all argue. And outside of Sword Impulse showing up for the first episode, Force Impulse was clearly the main hero suit for the first half of the series, but for the second lead suit, I'm sorry, but Shin fans despair. Despite the fact that the series is called Destiny, Destiny was clearly not the lead of the second half of the series, as you can see from the openings featuring Strike Freedom and the fact that Destiny was grey, just like the GPO2, Providence, and Legend, and grey equals bad guy. Of course, getting pwned at the end and crying like a little girl doesn't help Shin's case very much, so for Seed Destiny I call Force Impulse and Strike Freedom. Now from 00, Exia was the first lead Gundam, but not Repair 1 or 2, despite how awesome their appearances were in the series. And the 00, even though the show was split into seasons 1 and 2, we could almost call the 00 Riser a mid-season upgrade, but keeping with the 2 per series, and the fact that it's not all that different from the Super Gundam, when you think about it, I'm going to call the Exia and 00 as the leads. However, with the 00 movie coming out, 00 series gets to add another lead Gundam, and that's going to be the 00 Quanta. And whatever its relation is story-wise to the 00 Gundam, whether it's a repair version, upgrade, whatever you want to call it, the point is it's going to count as its own unique lead in my books. So when you add it all up, I am going to say that there are 29 lead Gundams, of which I have built 28 at the moment. So what doesn't make the list? Well, G-Saviour the movie is not animated, so it's easy to keep off. And it looks like Bandai sort of wishes that this movie never ever happened and they never want to mention it again. So the fact also that this doesn't have a 1/100th kit goes to show that it really sucks and that it doesn't count as a lead Gundam. That being said, I could change my mind if they ever made a master grade of it, and might be tempted to include it, as horrible as that sounds. Now Stargazer is also going to be another controversial omission. But besides the fact that the series was really short, Strike Noir and Stargazer made it all confusing and made it a little bit hard to call. Strike Noir clearly fails the color test, but it does of course make my cool Gundam list, and Stargazer doesn't have a 1/100th kit, nor does it appear in Gundam vs. Gundam, so I feel safe in keeping it off the list for now. Now of course, everything I've said so far is just me, so feel free to disagree, and let me know what you think with a comment or response down below. First of all, did I miss any? Then why does EZ8 make the list but not GPO1FB? What about it's got to include Destiny because, well, the show is called Destiny. And what's that? Jesus Yamato doesn't deserve 3 lead Gundams? Well, anyway, what if G-Saviour tends to give you meaning in an otherwise meaningless life? Well, let me know what you think, and eventually, though it'll take a long time, look forward to reviews of all 29 lead Gundams, plus lots more. And as always, thanks for watching everybody, www.gundam. I have too many models. So, you guys know that, like, technically, I made this list. You know, I think arguing about who is and who isn't a lead Gundam is geeky enough, so don't ever expect from me a video where I argue who is the strongest Gundam of them all.